Hello. Today we invite you to a special place in ancient Jerusalem. A place with thousands of years of history. This is the Pool of Bethesda, which has the paradoxical name of House of Mercy. This was a place where the earnest wishes of countless sick people gathered. But at the same time, it was a tragic scene where deep loneliness and despair intersected. In particular, the story of a man who spent 38 long years fighting illness and living in isolation resonates deeply with us. From now on, we will calmly explore the Pool of Bethesda. The miraculous healing that occurred within it, and the profound meaning it holds in documentary form. This story goes beyond a simple record of healing. It contains a message about the essential loneliness of human existence and the true hope that blossoms within that loneliness. First, let's look at the background of the Pool of Bethesda. The Pool of Bethesda was located next to the Sheep Gate of the ancient city of Jerusalem. This Sheep Gate was the passage through which sheep were sacrificed to the temple. And its traces still remain today near the Lion Gate in Jerusalem's Old City. The name of the pool. Bethesda means Beth Hesed in Hebrew, or House of Mercy. Judging by the name alone, this place should have been a healing space overflowing with love and compassion. But the actual atmosphere of the Pool of Bethesda was quite different from its name. Around the pond were 5 pavilions, or pillared corridors. These pavilions served as places for pilgrims to rest and chat. But they also served as temporary shelters for countless sick people to take shelter from the rain or sleep. The pond itself served as a reservoir for rainwater, and was also used to wash sheep destined for the temple. In this way, the Pool of Bethesda served important religious and social functions, and was also considered a place of last hope for the sick. But there is a unique legend handed down about the Pool of Bethesda. An angel sometimes comes down to the pond and stirs the water. At this time, the first person to enter the water would be cured of any illness. This legend drew countless sick people to the Pool of Bethesda. They followed the faint light of hope, desperately waiting for the water to move. But this legend also created a tragic arena of competition. Among the countless sick people, who would be the first to enter the water? Those who were physically ill and weak were naturally pushed out of this competition. Despite its name, House of Mercy, Bethesda has become a place of brutal competition for only one person. The reality of this pond, which was even more harsh for the weak, was a symbol that vividly showed the dark side of society at the time. At the Pool of Bethesda, there was a man who had been ill for 38 years. 38 years is a truly enormous amount of time. It means that the most active period of a person's life was spent fighting illness. He probably spent countless years by this pond, waiting for the water to move. But he was unable to move on his own. And there was no one to put him in the pond. His life would have been filled with nothing but waiting and despair. How deep must have been the frustration and alienation in his heart. As he watched other healthy people jump in first and be healed each time the water was stirred. For 38 years, he probably gave up all hope and just mechanically endured each day. His loneliness must have been deepened by the indifference and neglect that surrounded him, beyond mere physical pain. He was one of the many sick people at the Pool of Bethesda. But at the same time he was more isolated than anyone else. Then one day, Jesus visited the Pool of Bethesda. Jesus looked intently at a man who had been ill for 38 years among the many sick people. Then he approached him and asked him a question. "Do you want to get well?" This question was not a simple one. For someone who had been ill for 38 years. The fundamental question was whether the will to get better still remained. Instead of giving a direct answer to Jesus' question, the sick man lamented his own situation. "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. So while I am getting there, someone else steps down before me." His answer was filled with deep despair, helplessness, and the hurt of years of neglect. He was deeply resigned to the fact that there was no one who could solve his problems. But Jesus, after hearing his lament, gave a firm command without any further questions or medical examination. "Get up, take up your mat, and walk." The sick man responded with astonishment to this simple yet authoritative command. He was immediately healed, picked up his mat and walked away. A miracle occurred in which a body that had been stiff for 38 years recovered in an instant. This scene has a deeper meaning than just physical healing. Jesus did not put him in the water. He healed him not by relying on the legend of angels or the specific power of the pool, but only by the power of his own word. This passage demonstrates God's absolute mercy and power, unbound by human effort or specific conditions. But this healing incident sparked another controversy. It was precisely because Jesus healed the sick on the Sabbath. The Sabbath was a sacred day for the Jews, and no work was permitted. Jesus commanded the sick man to pick up your mat and walk, which was forbidden on the Sabbath according to Jewish law. When the Jews saw the sick man carrying his mat, they began to criticize Jesus and the sick man. They were preoccupied with the formal issue of breaking the Sabbath law, rather than the miraculous event itself of healing the sick. This clearly exposes the contradiction of legalism, which values formal discipline over saving lives. Jesus directly criticized this legalism and showed that the true meaning of the Sabbath is to save people and do good. The story of the healing of this 38-year-old invalid has several important implications. First, the mercy of Jesus. Among the many sick people, Jesus visited the one who had suffered the longest. A man who had been sick for 38 years and whom no one paid attention to. This shows how deeply Jesus cares for the socially marginalized and suffering. Jesus' mercy was unconditional. Second, hope in despair. Jesus gave new hope to a sick man who had been fighting illness for 38 long years and had fallen into despair. This is a message of hope that no matter how desperate a situation, a new beginning is always possible in Jesus. Third, it is a new beginning and spiritual transformation. After Jesus healed the man, he said to him, "Sin no more, so that nothing worse happens to you." This message is not limited to physical healing. but calls for spiritual transformation and a new attitude toward life. It provides not only physical health but also spiritual health and the right direction for life. Fourth, the tragedy of Bethesda and its social significance. Despite its name, the Pool of Bethesda was a place of brutal competition, where only one person received healing. This also symbolically shows a cross-section of our society today. It reflects the reality that in an endless competition, only the winners monopolize everything, and the weak are marginalized and abandoned. The story of the Pool of Bethesda makes us reflect on whether we are truly practicing mercy, and whether the logic of competition is destroying humanity. Finally, the meaning of 38 years. Some interpreters connect this long period of 38 years with the 38 years the Israelites wandered in the wilderness. This symbolizes the powerlessness of man, who cannot do anything on his own, and shows the human condition that cannot be saved without God's grace. The 38-year-old invalid represents human limitations and inability, reminding us that only divine intervention can bring true freedom and recovery. In conclusion, the story of the man at the Pool of Bethesda who had been ill for 38 years is not a simple story of miracles. It reveals the ills of ancient society and the fundamental loneliness of humanity, while also vividly testifying to Jesus' infinite mercy and healing power that transcend all limitations. This story still poses profound questions for us today. Are we truly listening to the cries of our suffering neighbors? Are there any who are being marginalized in the name of competition and efficiency? And what is the true hope that can heal the 38 years of loneliness and despair that have been within us? The process of finding the answer to this question itself may be the most important message of this story. The story of the Pool of Bethesda transcends time and reminds us of the compassion, mercy, and true healing that all humanity needs.